Hi, I'm Jolina Karen. Welcome to this webinar on the 5 principles for living, loving, and leading well. This is a preview of an upcoming 12-week program that's starting on October 24th. But in what time we have together here, I'd like to give you an overview of 5 principles that are radically changing the way we understand human dynamics. Our society is at a crisis point. Never before have we been so divided, so intolerant of different opinions, and so capable of raining down destruction on the people that we believe are responsible for our unhappiness. Now more than ever, we must uplevel the way we think about people and relationships. We must do better at how we live, love, and lead. As Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same kind of thinking that created them. Psychology, sociology, and theology are not going to change or fix the problems that they have helped to create. Fortunately, science has some different opinions and some useful ways of understanding human dynamics. Just a little bit about me before I dive in. My name is Jolina Karen. I grew up in South Africa and was keenly aware of how people were divided on the basis of their skin color. My mother was a very well-known metaphysical healer. My father was a nuclear physicist. So I grew up with one foot in both worlds, trying to figure out how to bring science and spirituality together in order to make sense of human relationships. I loved South Africa. It is a heartbreakingly beautiful place and a brutal place all at the same time. So at a very early age, I was filled with this desire to figure out how to do something that would essentially save the world, or at least save South Africa. When I was 14, I read the autobiography of Carl Jung and became inspired. In it, he said, we cannot effect true healing until we reach the soul. How to do that? How to reach the soul? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How can I explain it to my father? These were questions that filled my mind and set me on a course to study psychology. I learned pretty quickly in psychology that I wasn't going to get the information that I was desiring on how to do that kind of deep spiritual work in a way that would make sense to the scientist in me and my father. So in 1989, I left South Africa on a mission to go and find the thing that would answer my questions. I thought I would have that thing in 2 years. I didn't. It took me 15. For the last 14 years, I have embraced the study of this worldview based on quantum physics, axiology, and physiology that offers a different way of understanding why we do what we do as human beings. Over the 14 years of teaching these principles, I've noticed that I come back time and time again to 5 of them. So it's those 5 principles that I want to share with you in this webinar. If you're concerned about the amount of violence and aggression in this world or in the society, and you want to make a difference, but you're not sure how, if you want to be a better leader to your family or to your employees, if you want to live in such a way that benefits not only yourself, but also uplifts the people around you, then I'd love to invite you to participate in the longer program, The Foundations, that's coming up on October 27th. I'll tell you more about how to register for that and a bonus that I'm offering. I'll tell you more at the end of this webinar. So these 5 principles. The first principle is that you are the creator of your reality. Your mind is the matrix of your matter. Now, if you're on this webinar with me, I suspect that this idea that you create your reality through your responses to what's happening out there is not unfamiliar to you. That is already an up-leveled way of thinking compared to those people who don't believe they have any control over their responses. Those people that tend to live from this perspective that life happens, stuff happens to them, and they just basically have to deal with it. That's a very disempowered victim type mentality. So to even be living from a place of recognizing that you have the power to choose your responses to the things that are happening, that is an empowered perspective. However, there is an up level from that. And the up level is that you are literally the creator of your experiences. In the stepped down version, where you believe you can change or control your responses to things that are happening out there, there is the assumption that there is an out there, independent of you. There isn't an out there that is independent of you. For a deeper explanation of this, we must turn to quantum physics. And from quantum physics, we know that everything in the universe is energy or light. And the words energy and light get used interchangeably. So we know that all macro structures, like my body, for example, can be broken down into smaller and smaller units. This body can be broken down into organs. Organs can be broken down into tissues. Tissues broken down into organelles. Organelles into molecules. Molecules into atoms. And atoms can be broken down into subatomic particles, the smallest of which is a photon. Everything in this macro universe is essentially little photons of energy. The out there that is out there is nothing more than a field of charged particles of light. And yet your experience of it is that it's a world of trees and mountains and cars and accidents and people that rain bullets down on others, right? But here's the thing. When scientists started to ask the question, is light or energy, is it a wave or is it a particle? They came to the very surprising conclusion that light is, paradoxically, both wave and particle. Now here's the thing. Whether light shows up as a wave or as a particle is dependent on the presence of an observer. So in other words, the presence of an observer had an effect on how light manifested. The world out there is nothing but light. You are the observer of it. Your world is manifesting in response to your observation of it. You are literally creating the reality that you're experiencing through your perceptions of it. Now here's the beautiful thing. We can change our perceptions. And when we change our perceptions, we literally change the way that energy manifests for us. This is exactly what I did when I found a tumor in my breast several years ago. I did nothing, well, I panicked for the first 6 days. And then I remembered what I was learning and I went on a different journey with this. And where I had to go was into a radically different perception of this tumor. I had to go from, this is a thing that I'm terrified of, that I believe is going to kill me, to this is a thing for which I am so grateful, I wouldn't change a thing. Having had the training that I'd had, it took me 3 hours to get there. And within 3 hours, I knew that no matter what the outcome of the biopsy, etc., that was scheduled, I was done with this thing because I got the message. And sure enough, within 3 months, the tumor disappeared. This is the power of changing our perceptions. We create our experiences and our realities through our perceptions of them. So we're in the Foundations program, we're going to go much more deeply into how exactly you change your perceptions. Because if it was easy, we'd all be changing our perceptions left and right, wouldn't we? I would be perceiving that I'm holding the winning lottery ticket and poof, no more working, right? So there are very specific ways in which we need to work in order to shift our perceptions in ways that shift how our reality is manifesting. This is absolutely doable when you know what you're doing. The quality that arises when we really get our head around this idea that we are the creator of our experiences is the quality of curiosity. You cannot know that what you're experiencing is actually what you're experiencing. All you can know is that you're having an experience, it feels true, but there is no way for you to know that what you believe is true is actually true. So what this must give rise to in us, and what it does open up space in us for, is curiosity. Curiosity is paramount if you want to be a great leader and you want to be good at relationships. The second principle that we're going to go into, the second principle is that everything has two sides. Now again, I'm sure if you're on this call with me, you have said many times everything has two sides. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. You've probably drawn the yin and yang symbol, right? You've certainly said things like, for every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. But here's the up level of that. Add the word simultaneously to it. Everything has two sides simultaneously. We know again from physics, Stephen Hawking, for every particle, there's an antiparticle that exists simultaneously. For every story in your mind, there is an anti-story, and they occur simultaneously. For every experience of pain you are having a simultaneous experience of pleasure. For every experience of loss, you're experiencing simultaneous gain. This word simultaneously changes the game entirely. In our normal, everyday psychological way of looking at the world, we tend to think linearly. Our experiences tend to be of 1 minute I'm happy, the next minute I'm sad, then I'm happy, and then I'm sad. And we appear to oscillate from one to the other. The up-leveled understanding is that both are occurring simultaneously. I got such a dramatic example of just how powerful this understanding can be when years ago I worked with a young gal who had been doing heroin. While she was no longer on the drugs, she was having experiences where she thought she was dying. Mom and dad would rush her off to the hospital. They'd run a battery of tests. They could find nothing wrong. They'd send her home. She'd have another episode where she thought she was dying, back to the hospital, more tests, more negative, more inconclusive results. She'd be sent home. And after the third time, she found her way to my office, or at least her mother found her way to my office. So in walks this teenager. She's 17 years old. She's got a hoodie over her eyes. Her hands are stuffed in her pockets. She clearly did not want to be with me. And the only thing she said to me was, "I hate therapists." Sweet, I said, because that's me trying to be cool and relate to a 17-year-old. Sweet. I said, "I'm not a therapist." And she kind of flicked her eyes at me, and that was about it. So it left me no choice but to prattle on about this physics-based understanding of our experiences as human beings. And I talked about how we know from physics that you cannot have a particle without a simultaneous antiparticle. You cannot have a positive without a simultaneous negative charge. And if we take that model and apply it to our psychological experiences, it must follow that we cannot have a happy experience without a sad experience at the same time. And we cannot be sad without being simultaneously happy. As I talked, this young girl started to get a little more animated. I wouldn't say she jumped out of her chair, but she got a little more animated until suddenly when I said, "So what that means is you can never be happy without also being sad," she almost did come out of her chair. And she sat up and she said, "That's it." She said, "I've seen that every time I'm happy, I'm also sad. And every time I'm sad, I'm also happy. And everybody says I'm supposed to be either happy or sad. And I'm so fucked up, and that's why I do drugs." And then it was my turn to almost come out of my chair. And I sat up and I high-fived her and I said, "You, sister, are brilliant. You have seen the Matrix. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are brilliant. What's broken is the understanding that so many other people are trying to live by. This belief that you're supposed to be happy or sad, or the belief that you can have positive thinking without simultaneous negative. That is what the problem is. There's nothing wrong with you." Well, I never saw her again, but about 3 weeks later, her mother phoned to say she had no idea what I did with her daughter, but her daughter was a different person, had had no more episodes, and thanked me very much. Just shifting this gal's worldview and normalizing the fact that indeed we experience pain and pleasure together set her free from the story that she was running, that there was something defunct or deficient and broken about her. How might your life change if you were able to give yourself permission to actually name and experience the pains and pleasures in all of your experiences. I know what would happen is regret, blame, anger from the past would dissipate. And with that, fear and anxiety about the future would collapse as well. Again, in the program, if you're going to join us, I can't wait to show you how to collapse these lopsided perceptions in order that you have a fuller experience of life. The quality that arises when we really start to live from this place is courage. Principle number 3. The third principle is that every human being has every human trait. For this, we're looking to holography. In the holographic version of the universe, it states that everything is holographic. So if we take that and apply that to human beings, it means that every human being must have every human trait. And indeed, if you are honest with yourself and you look, you will find that you also have every single human trait. Now, here's the thing. Every human trait is functional. Every trait serves a purpose and deserves to be appreciated. The myth that arises from the false belief that people are either good or bad, or some people have more so-called positive qualities and other people have more so-called negative qualities, is we get into this judgmental way of being that says some people are good and other people are bad. There are no bad people and there are no good people in this world. Every person has every trait. The quality that emerges when we really start to functionally analyze our traits is the quality of compassion, true, authentic compassion. Until we can be compassionate with ourselves, until we can understand the function of and get grateful to all parts and pieces of ourselves, we cannot be authentically compassionate with others. So if being compassionate with others is something that is motivating to you, that is something that feels important, if you would like to see more compassion in the world, my invitation to you is that you learn to truly be compassionate and loving of all of the parts and pieces of yourself. As you learn to love all parts of you, so you can be authentically present with other people, you can be authentically present and compassion with those parts of other people that you've learned to love in yourself. And here's the thing. When you can be authentically present with somebody, something inside them starts to remember that they are lovable. In this way, we change the world. The fourth principle is that every single human being has a 100% unique hierarchy of values. Values, as they're typically talked about in our everyday conversations, are talked about in a very shallow and not very informative way. Typically, when I hear people talking about values, I hear them talking about things like honesty, integrity, generosity, and so on. These are not values. These are traits. When we turn to axiology, the study of values and human behavior, a very different and more informative definition of value starts to arise. The way that I say it is values, somebody's true values, are the things and experiences that they value enough to actually dedicate resources towards acquiring. The things and experiences that they value enough to actually go after in life. Understanding values, understanding what is important enough to you, or truly important to you and truly important to others, is key to being able to connect with another person. So the quality that arises when we really start to understand how to identify values and how to honor both yourself and others for having the values that you have, what starts to arise is the ability to truly connect with one another. You cannot lead, you cannot motivate, you cannot sell to somebody whose value systems you do not know how to identify. Another thing, all feelings of unworthiness, of insecurity, of inadequacy, of not being good enough, and almost all conflict is nothing more than a clash of values. Insecurity, perceptions of self-sabotage, feelings of not being good enough generally arise when you don't know what your true values are, because there is a wisdom in you that is working to make sure that no matter what, you will get pulled back to your true values over and over and over again. What this feels like when you don't understand the dynamics is self-sabotage and failure. So understanding value system collapses perceptions of being not good enough and of being a failure. Imagine how your life might change, or the lives of your children and the people around you might change, if they didn't struggle with feeling not good enough, feeling anxious, or feeling like a failure. Understanding value systems is paramount in this. Finally, the fifth quality, or the fifth principle. The fifth principle is that life is always happening for you. The normal way of thinking is that life is happening to us. But when you get clear on what your authentic values are, when you embrace all parts and pieces of yourself, when you have the courage to put yourself first in the most authentic way possible, what starts to emerge is this tremendous sense of certainty that indeed life is happening for you, not to you. How might your life change if you lived every day with a sense of certainty that no matter what, you are going to be supported and challenged, you are going to feel pain and pleasure in exactly the way that you require it in order to grow into the person who can fulfill your highest values? This is what's possible. It's my passion, my pleasure, my honor, my pain to share this information as best I can. The Foundations program is a 12-week live and interactive online program. This is the last time I'm going to be offering the program in 2017. It's also the first time that I'm offering the program to pairs. So this is the bonus that I'm offering. Perhaps I should have offered it a long time ago. It is about relationships, after all. So the bonus that I'm offering is sign up for the program by the 19th, and you get to bring your spouse, your partner, or a family member with you. You loving you changing the way you relate to yourself is what the world needs more than anything else. Every relationship that you have out there, whether it's at work or at home, is a reflection of the relationship that you're having with yourself. The Foundations program, 5 Principles for Living, Loving, and Leading Well, is in essence an extraordinarily in-depth and powerful personal development program that is guaranteed to up-level how you interact with and lead others in your life. Thank you so much for being with me on this webinar. You can find more information about the upcoming Foundations program at my website, jolenakaren.com/foundations. Again, the program starts on October 24th, 2017. It covers 12 weeks. It is live. It is interactive. You get lots of time with me, both on the calls and in between, to ask questions. My sincere belief is that the sooner we reach a critical mass of people who are living and embodying the wisdom of Einstein and Rumi, science and mysticism together, the sooner we will reach a tipping point and radically shift how we're all interacting with one another on this planet. Thank you so much. I look forward to interacting and relating with you again soon.